Audio problem again. Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? I think it should be good now. And give me a thumbs up if you're okay. Fantastic. Right. Okay. Yeah. Audio is back. Excellent stuff. And yes, well, basically, welcome back to my live stream on Facebook. And this is the second time I have audio problem. So so that's good now. I can see comments saying that I'm back. Okay. Welcome. Welcome. So if you're new to my live stream, my name is Jimmy Cheng. I'm a professional photographer, filmmaker, and an Olympus ambassador. So as you can see that the last 2 days has been fairly hectic in the Michael Four Thirds world, especially Olympus, of course. I have received absolutely overwhelmingly amount of messages, email, text messages, whatever, you name it. I received tons of them asking me whether this is okay, I'm okay, and but I would really like to use this opportunity to thank you all for your support and also all the kind messages that you have sent me and thanking me about this and that. So really thank you about that. But what I can always say that is. Life moves on, life goes on. Nothing has happened at the moment, and I don't see any major problem. I'm still an ambassador. Olympus still business as usual. I'm still business as usual. I'm still using Olympus gears for that matter, and so nothing has changed. But anyway, I have some special news to share with you guys, and which is fairly interesting. In fact, this particular news, I have been consistently saying it. I know most of you probably wouldn't know or pay notice because I'm only recently gone on this live stream thing on a daily basis. So a lot of you guys only knew me since I started the live stream about 3 months ago. But before that, I have been posting some similar posts from Japan. And I think for the last, I would say, next 6 months to a year. So I've been consistent every time they got a report, and I will send it out and post it on my Facebook timeline. And you might actually be able to dig it up, probably quite far back now. But the same report just came out this morning and highlighting the this quarter, basically, the sales figure from Japan. And so to most of you who don't know or understand the Japanese market, that Olympus has always been in the top 3 in terms of sales. And in terms of volume sale, annual volume sales, they are actually better than Canon. Yeah, you probably wouldn't believe that, and also to a lot of you guys in terms of general understanding from the kind of like a world perceptions of other brands such as Sony, Fuji, and Panasonic. They are obviously fairly big in the Western countries, but in Japan, Nikon and Panasonic aren't even in the top 5. Well, top 4. So this is kind of very, very interesting. So let me just show you this particular graph, yeah, and okay, so let's do, not this one here. So okay, now you can see this is the graph. This is the graph that I've been showing many times in my post before, and this is the latest one. You can see from the top there is the actual timeline. These figures are curated between the 2nd of March to 25th of May, kind of like the height of the pandemic era. And obviously sales has been affected. In the report, it did mention that sales has been affected across the board regardless. Most of them has been down between 10 to 10 to 15% in general, and but overall, if you look at these sales figures here, the red line represents Olympus, and the blue line is Sony, and the green line is Canon. So you can see these 3 are always kind of competing head to head in the top 3 sectors. There are times Olympus will overtake, but they're consistently between the 2nd or 3rd in terms of sales, which is actually very interesting in a way that for those of you probably first time seeing this chart, but in my experience, and I have seen this chart for the last 2 years. I've been kind of like monitoring it every now and then, just out of curiosity. Not that I'm an analyst. I'm not that I'm a rumor spreader either. I'm just curious, and in general, because I kind of like to see what everybody else is doing, and like I said, I don't want to make enemy with any other brand ambassadors or anything. In fact, we are all friends. I talk to Nikon's and Sony and also Canon ambassadors. I know them quite well, so we talk to each other a lot. We talk to each other as a photographer, so we don't really talk to gear that much. But I do kind of interested in what sort of sales figures they get, because obviously in the West it's very, very different, in terms of the ranking of sales. I'm pretty sure Canon, Sony, and Nikon are probably in the top 3 in America and Europe. but in the Far East, it's a very, very different picture. Well, I'm going to show you another graph as well, which is actually quite interesting as well. So in terms of sales figure, you can really clearly see that the Fuji, obviously, they have climbed up quite a bit since the beginning of the mirrorless evolutions, but they are ranking on 4th. But look at this chart. Nikon and other companies are not even mentioned in this because their sales are actually relatively small in Japan. So they are not really considered as the bigger players in Japan, and which is no. And when I first saw this chart a few years ago, and I was kind of shocked because Nikon is always in my eyes was one of the bigger boys in the world. Before Sony kind of creeping into the top 3 as a market, Sony and Canon kind of like dominating the whole world. There are always these 2 boys fighting each other, and I would expected Nikon to be in this chart, but in fact they weren't in there, and that has been the case for the last couple of years now, and so is Panasonic. Who would have thought about that? In the Micro Four Thirds world, everybody on YouTube, everybody on other social media platforms, always talking about Panasonic cameras because they shoot videos, but to my surprise, again, they are not in the top 5, and so it's kind of very interesting. And these are actually coming from Japan's report, so it's not something that someone's made it up. And this has been consistently being reported on a quarterly basis. So for those who think that Olympus imaging divisions is kind of going away because of poor sales, poor this and poor that. And you can actually see there's quite an opposite, message from this particular chart here. Obviously, that doesn't represent the entire worldwide figures or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure, there are regions that are loss-making, and there are also regions that are profit-making. And I'm pretty certain in the UK we're actually doing fairly well in terms of the general market. So Olympus UK has always been one of the more profitable regions. So this has always been good for us. But like any businesses, there will be some weaker areas, such as you already know about the South Korean market. So that could be one sector that's be loss-making ones, but there could be several others that I'm not entirely sure where or how, whatever. But anyway, so this is it. So in terms of which cameras that they sold the most in during this period, I'm going to show you another chart now, which is actually let's showing you is this. Okay, not this one here. Okay, just look at this one. Okay, this doesn't tell the whole story. Obviously, this is just the top 10 selling cameras in Japan during this period, but then it doesn't represent the entire figures, because obviously there are other cameras being sold at the same time. But if you look at the most popular cameras being sold in Japan is currently the EOS M, and then is the second place would be the Sony 6400. But look at the third and fourth place. The the EM10 Mark III and the EPL9. So these are the beginner levels cameras, and they all always been the cameras that are more popular. Even in the West, the EM10 has always been really, really popular. A lot of us don't talk about it because people who tune into my channel, people who tune into my stream, a lot of the cases that they are usually enthusiasts or semi-professional, even professional who tune into my talk, even to look at my reviews and stuff like that. Rarely there are people who are beginners kind of going into my channel, because they're more likely to be the general casual shooters and also maybe vloggers and things like that. And my channel doesn't quite tailor for that particular sector there. Although having said that, I can see my YouTube demographic that my age group has shifted quite dramatically over the last 3 months, perhaps because of my stream is becoming quite a popular thing to do. So a lot of young people are watching streams, and then they are kind of maybe tuning into my thinking or something. So it is happening. So perhaps this could be a good thing to talk about. The importance of all these entry-level cameras. You may actually disregard them because they're just not the pro stuff, the high-end stuff. But and like I always said to a lot of people, when they come into photography, you don't really need the best, or the most expensive camera gear to perform. And in fact, the EM10, the EMPL9, these sort of cameras are actually enough for majority of the people out there, and that's true. I can operate an EPL9 or EPL10 or even the EM10 Mark III to actually work if I want to. I can actually work with those cameras. You know, you can forget about a lot of this stuff that many people may be concerned about, such as, oh, it may not have the latest hybrid AF, this and that, or it doesn't have the Pro Capture. But look at the instances that I do on my job on a daily basis. I shoot portrait, and I shoot people who are slow moving, and even if movement, I can actually operate as menu focus things. And in general, I can actually operate any sort of cameras to do the same job that I can spend like 3 times the money and with the, you know, compared to the EM10 Mark III. So that is kind of the message I'm trying to get across, that these are the bread and butters for a lot of the company. You can see the sales in terms of what happens in the last 3 months is that almost all these cameras here are the beginners cameras, entry-level cameras, apart from the X-T4, because that was the time when the X-T4 just came out. So so that obviously has a boost in that thing. In fact, if you look at that chart, you can actually see that boost there. I can just go back to this one here. So you can see that right around April, that's a jump from Fuji, and that's when the X-T4 came out. So that clearly reflected in this particular chart here. So you can see that they are being in the top 10 figures. But I'm sure you can actually see that straight after that, there's the where is it gone now? And immediately the sales came back down because obviously people who already pre-ordered the X-T4 has got their cameras, and the sales kind of gone back to the normal level compared to the rest of the months or weeks. So yeah, and if you can see, Olympus has been always kind of be a favorite within the Japanese market, and it remains so until the foreseeable future. So that's how I can see it. But like I said, you know, this doesn't say anything in terms of what was happening in the recent days. Okay, Girish, okay, I'm going to answer some questions now because I see something popped up immediately. So let's see something here. Okay. First of all, I want to say hi to everybody first, of whoever joined in here. Good morning, Roman. Good morning, Raul, Trevor, Burana, Mark, Brad, and Roger, Atmir, Robin, and yeah, hello, Davo, and Wiki, Ravinda is here as well. Excellent. So yeah, as you can see that a lot of these figures out there is very interesting. Yes, they are from Japan only, so it is local to the Japanese market. This does not represent the worldwide figure. Like I mentioned, the chart is very different internationally, and also each region could be very, very different. But I'm pretty certain that the Olympus is not ranking in the top 3, or maybe even not even in the top 5 internationally, because you can see that people are generally talking on the street are usually the main brands such as the Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, maybe even Panasonic. So like the ranking could be very, very different there, but it shows the popularity or how people perceive photography is very, very different in the West compared to the East. And in fact, this Japanese chart here reflects fairly well in general, you know, about the East, the East compared to the West. So like I know Hong Kong and the Olympus is actually fairly popular, especially in the entry level market, which is very, very similar to the Japanese markets. The EM10, the EPL9 has always been very, very popular cameras. You know, when people actually think that they are a little bit insufficient in the Western world, you know, because of 60 megapixels, contrast only, AF, and this and that. But like I mentioned, you know, a lot of people who just want to capture some really good snapshots, you know, when they go out and about, or have fun with the people, they're not too drill into too deep into the menu and things like that. And these are kind of like a really perfect, high quality day-to-day cameras, and I think that that would definitely satisfy most of the people's needs in general, and unless you are very specific, if you are a sports photographer, and that's totally different. If you constantly shoot in low light and you requiring high bursting rate and things like that, of course that is different. But how many are those people in terms of like the general population? There aren't many. If you look at like the reason why that the smartphone market, you know, has kind of overtaken the world is because they are easy to use. They are always next to you. They are slim, is pocketable. It's a similar kind of reasons. The EPL9, the EP, and the EM10, you know, despite of the, you know, being a mirrorless cameras, but they are micro four third, and they are very, very slim, and they are pocketable kind of like if you have a larger kind of jacket, and also interchangeable lenses. And if you look at the Olympus premium lenses like the 45 1.8, the 25 1.8, 17 1.8, they are tiny lenses. So which means that theoretically you can have a large jacket, have the EPL9 or the EM10 on one pocket with a lens attached to it, and have a couple of spare lenses on the other pocket. So you don't even need the bag. And I mean, compared to other systems, is definitely way bigger. Especially when you slap on the equivalent lenses, and definitely will be a lot bulkier and definitely heavier compared to the Micro Four Third. That's has always been the case. And also, I always said that the Olympus camera do look very good, right? They just look ultra sexy in terms of the appearance, the constructions, and I can never fault it. Not that I'm a fan. I'm just a fan of the overall aesthetic side of it, the design of it. I kind of like the old school OM camera look, not even kind of like the back in the 80s cameras look. Okay, so I said hi to all these people. Let's see. See some people here. Right. Brad said, nice to see that let me just move my show up here. And so in a way, if you want to follow me on my Instagram, check my stuff out. And this is my link right there. You can also buy me some coffees if you like. And it's Friday. And nice to see Japan have similar appreciation for Olympus advantages. And, we have a really good community here. And in fact, like how often do we actually talk down to other people? And in general, every time I speak to Olympus photographer, we rarely kind of say, other system is bad, other system is worse, in the things like that. We are actually kind of very gentle group here. We're very nice, appreciative photographers and creators here. And we are into photography because we love photography. We're not into photography because we love the gear, And and if you kind of appreciate that, and I think that then you can see the passion from Olympus, why they're creating the cameras they are creating today, and why they have all this philosophy, always trying to make cameras affordable and also better for anyone to enjoy, and I mean anyone. So this is very, very different philosophy to other people. I know, like I said, I'm not talking bad to other camera companies or manufacturers. They are pushing the technological boundaries a lot. They're pushing the envelopes further and further, which is fine. But if you look at the applicability, the actual appropriateness to a lot of the general public, it may sound very good, but then will you actually be able to use those features? To most people, probably wouldn't. Like Canon's latest camera, the R5 and R6, technologically is a marvel. Shoot 8K internally. You can shoot 4K 120 frames per second. You can shoot log 422, 10-bit. This kind of thing is like, for any videographer, it will be like a dream. Yeah, in spec-wise. But look, my computer is just about handling like multiple layers of 4K video streaming and also editing. I can't possibly imagine me shooting 8K anytime soon unless I actually have a big budget production that will require me to do 8K. But if I do have that sort of budget, will I actually get the Canon? I'll probably be using something more high-end cinema cameras. But this is the thing, but it's a good thing that Canon does it because they are pushing the technological boundary. They are showcasing basically what they can do with a consumer level cameras. So this is actually very interesting from that perspective. And so is the other cameras company there. Like obviously Panasonic has developed very well in the video world. They have a lot of codecs that is fantastic. Their internal construction for the ventilations and making sure overheating doesn't exist, and kind of thing is these are really good, cool technological advancement. But once again, how many people are going to make use of that? And don't tell me a lot of people are using, these like latest, greatest kind of inventions in cameras for posting on Facebook. So don't tell me that, seriously. And then if you do that, and I think you are kind of wasting $3,000 on that just now. And so that's kind of my always saying, if you're really truly enjoy about photography, and ultimately it's your photo that counts, yeah. And how much do you need in terms of resolution for whatever, however you want to project your images and your product to your viewers and your followers? If you're primarily an Instagrammer, would you need like 100 megapixel? No. Do you do exhibition? If you do print big all the time, do you need high resolution? Yes. Do you product photography? You want to sell your prints or your digital files for commercial clients to make catalogs and poster? You need high resolution. What high resolution? Of course. But you have to weigh in yourself. Do you actually need those features and things like as a photographer? You know, a lot of people are just kind of blindly believing in a lot of things that doesn't actually translate into the real world applications, and they are simply believing in stuff that that been raving by other influencers and other online markets. So I think that is the general consensus of at how the world is operating at the moment, and how people are believing something that you know, is good, you know, in theory, but it kind of something that may not translate well into the real world stuff. And if you think it, you know, you get an 8K camera, you keep shooting 8K, but eventually you're not even going to show anybody, or just going to show a couple of clips on YouTube, and you are really completely wasting the 8K capabilities. And similarly, if you a majority of you guys are sending pictures on Instagram and other Facebook groups and forums, and you probably only need about 10 megapixel to be quite honest. Do you need the 100 megapixel, 40 megapixel, 60 megapixel? You know, if you need it, then you appreciate it. But if you don't, and that, I mean, to me, it's a waste. And you know, I'm not saying those are bad cameras. Like I said, all these are great cameras. They are really, really cool. We are very, very fortunate in 2020. We have tons and tons of choices there, whether it's going to be Olympus, whether it's going to be Canon, Nikon, whatever. We have tons of choices out there now. We have a variety of technologies that we can choose from, you know, and that they're all very good for specific reasons, you know, and so I guess, you know, people just really need to understand a lot more about themselves before they try to look into the cameras and what they need and things like that. And for me, you know, like I said many times, the reason I use Olympus is because I kind of prefer the Olympus, how they perform in my hands and how I can operate it with ease, or capture something that I need to do my job properly. And frankly, I have been using Olympus for the last 4.5 years since I switched professionally, and all my professional jobs that you see on my website and everything else are conducted using the Olympus cameras. All my short films and videos are all made with the Olympus cameras, and my entire YouTube videos, you know, my entire YouTube channel, every single videos were made with Olympus cameras. And so you can see that I just prefer using it. You know, I only became an ambassador last year, to be frank. You know, I'm not sure you guys know about it, but yeah, I became an ambassador last year, so I didn't actually associate with an Olympus 4 years ago, but I just prefer using it. Not that I was already associated with Olympus or anything like that. You know, it's just how I prefer, and I just basically have my work to prove it. I can operate Olympus to a professional level, to a high standard, and that's it. But that's something that you also have to think, you know, you can actually use any gears to produce really great works. And if you prefer Olympus, then that's Olympus. If you prefer other brands, so be it. But there's no point trying to kind of like hammer it down to other brands, not just Olympus, but like, you know, I can see there are a lot of hate messages I've seen in the last few days, and I'm not joking. Yeah, I know there are some trolls in my live stream on Wednesday, and I'm aware of it, and I also got some messages afterward, and some even say that it's really extreme. There was a guy, I can't remember his name now. There was a guy talking about Olympus is just gone, Nikon is gonna go next, and Fujifilm going to go next, and Canon's going to go next. Sony will be remained. You know, this is clearly a Sony fanboy talking, and so it's, you know, there are messages there, and there are also other fake news, such as Olympus already stopped making cameras. You know, they actually said stop production, and then also said about Olympus corporate. The entire corporate, yeah, is sold. You know, like, I think that these day and age, I think there's a lot of viral things going on there. There are lots of you know, fake news, and this is the danger of the internet nowadays. People somehow get some hold of these rape rumors and spiral it up, you know, to different levels and causing a lot of chaos. So at the end of the day, like I always say, you know, I don't want to say anything until Olympus or JIP for that matter now, and then make an official statement. So I would not want to go into the conclusion what's going to happen, but they already said that business as usual. So business as usual. So that's good. That's all I want to talk about today. And any questions you want to ask me about today? I know I haven't talked about photography, but if you want to check out yesterday's video, it's very educational. Yesterday I talked about photography, how to capture better photograph involving motion, and when you should be using motion and when you should not use motion. So it's a very interesting topic there yesterday. And I know it's, only a few of you tune in, and but that's okay, because I know this sort of topic usually doesn't translate into a very popular topic. So not many people usually like to listen to that kind of thing. But if you are interested in creating interesting or creative photographs, you can check out my yesterday stream, and it's actually very, very fun. And okay, let's see how I'm going to answer some questions here and see. Ralph Morning, and the headline is that JYP just there to dismantle Olympus. I have heard this since Wednesday, and as soon as the news broke out, and everyone is talking about the JYP stuff, and all I know is that JYP has actually have a history between Olympus and JYP. There's always been some sort of connection because they bought the IPTX, a business which is a telecom business from Olympus. Probably not many of you actually know about it, but they do. They did own it, and the JYP actually bought that business from Olympus. So they already have that relationship going. So they know each other fairly well. And in fact, that particular telecom business still exists and still working in Japan. And so this is something to let you know that I don't think, personally, I don't think they are going to do it, to be quite frank. And it's going to be really difficult to actually dismantle anything. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to say anything now. It's not official, so I don't want to go into that. But JYP knows Olympus, and Olympus knows JYP. And I thought only the... Oh dear, Roman. The random people show on funerals and tell everyone that they're such a great person. People are gone, but this seems like international behavior. Everybody's upset when something is gone, but don't care much before. Yeah, it is like that, isn't it? This is kind of like a general human thing, and it is the weird thing. They never really appreciate anything, and but like I said in my live stream on Wednesday, people might have taken it wrongly because of the title. I actually said on my live stream on Wednesday saying that I actually personally would hate to see any company goes down, regardless, because I'm a photographer. I cherish the history of photography. I also cherish all the heritage from all these companies who's been in the photography industry for so many years. Sony might be a little bit different, but before Sony it was Minolta, because they bought Minolta and transformed it into what they are today. But anyway, it's kind of that thing, that I always thought about. The general companies and manufacturers on cameras and lenses. I hate to see any one of them goes down, and whether you like their product or not is another thing. But I do generally believe that everyone should deserve their places in the industry. It's good to be competitive. It's good to have a market full of different players to push each other in terms of technologies and other interests. Yeah, that's a fact. I think it's very good. So, like you said, people don't appreciate until it's gone, and which is a sad thing in human lives. I think that we shouldn't be like that. We should treasure, we should appreciate each other, and also like using that as a motivation to create better product. And as a photographer, using that as a vision to see trying to motivate how I can capture that shot, with my camera, and if it's done by someone else and kind of thing. But this is the side points. Okay, and the Hart say that Sony got deeper pocket. Perhaps, they are bigger electronic giants, they have other things to worry about. They got the TV market of the PS5 and things like that. They got all kinds of stuff going on. Just like Olympus, and they have other disciplines and other departments. So I wouldn't say anything that unlike Canon and Nikon, all the others, they are kind of purely a photographic companies, especially Nikon actually. Canon is still more diversified compared to Nikon. So yeah, who knows? I mean, these day and age, I think whoever got the deeper pocket will probably have a longer durations, like in terms of difficult times. But we never know. Like I mentioned also in my stream, that the smartphone market is definitely saturating. So I don't see the same growth as what they had enjoyed the last 10 years. So that means that people who already bought into the smartphone photography, if they're really getting into picture taking, making videos, eventually they will come out of it and starting to find something better in terms of quality and things like that. So they will kind of look back into what sort of camera they can get. But having said that, the smartphone market is the filter, in a way, to filter people who are genuinely want to get in deeper with photography and filmmaking and content creations than before. Before you don't have much choices. You either have a point and shoot, or you go to the cameras. So people usually get the bigger cameras just because of that. But now, because of smartphones, you have options. And for people really just a total generalist, they'll use smartphone. But people eventually would realize that there's limitation on the smartphones and stuff like that, and if they really truly appreciate quality, they will get a bigger cameras, they will get a proper camera, and in that case they will still start looking at cameras. So sales will come back eventually, but it won't be the same amount of people as before, that's for sure, because the smartphone will be there forever. It's not going to go away anytime soon. It's still, smartphone market, it will still continue to mature, will continue to innovate. All the computational photography I talk about, these are going to stay and get better, that's for sure. And what I would like to see though is in the camera world, such as Olympus and all the other companies, is to hopefully see some more computational photography being implemented, because if the smartphone can do it, it can be done in the bigger cameras and be even better. So that could propel or give some sort of motivation to designers and engineers, maybe to think about what sort of next generation product they can produce, and maybe something quite exciting that we haven't seen yet in the future. And hopefully Olympus is going to be one of them. So that's my take on it, and that's something that I feel truly motivated to look forward to the future and see what the future holds, so to speak. And Brad, have you seen all the products getting cheaper already? No good, but perhaps good on the pockets in short term. Well, actually, no, I don't see that, Brad. And as a matter of fact, there's just a general sales going on in the summer sale. You see big sales on not just Olympus, but Fuji and Sony has been popping up in my mailbox every day, and it's got all these crazy summer sales on, and it's just general things. So okay. And EPL5 took nice picture, but it was a little pain to use. I gave it away and have a Pen F now, much better for me. Obviously this is kind of like a personal preference, and like myself, I prefer the Pen F because I do like the ergonomic. I like the fun dials. I still love it. The EPL, I have the EPL9, like I showed you before. I have the EPL9. I love the EPL9. I actually use that when I go to kids party. and as a matter of fact, a lot of parents actually love that camera when I use it to take photograph of my kids, and they all come up to me and say, "Oh, that's a really cool camera." I said, "Yeah, it's an EPL, it's a pen, it's a really cool camera." And okay, let's see that. Panic sales, panic buy. So like if we are gonna continue, people are gonna jump back on it. I don't know, let's call it the settling period. I know the news doesn't look positive enough to a lot of the photographers out there, but already Olympus tried to reassure their existing customers and also future potential buyers that business as usual. So hopefully that will translate back in the next few months. I know that at the moment there is some sort of panics going on. That's understandable. Even when I heard the news on Wednesday, and obviously being a Olympus ambassador, also a lover of Michael Four Thirds format, I always think that it's going to be a bit of shock to me. But after a couple of days now, I have digested the news. I have also thought a little bit deeper about the whole transaction thing, and I can genuinely say that I'm fairly comfortable about what's going on. And to be honest, I think it may be even better, simply because something that I believe that Olympus may have missed a little bit in the last couple of years, and hopefully the new partnership or the new ownership from JIP was going to steer the ship into a better direction. I'm not entirely sure, whether that is going to be the case. Of course, no one knows until perhaps the end of the year, when everything is kind of like settled down and things like that. But I do hope that will be the case. In fact, if that happens, I'm pretty certain that Olympus is going to be one of the greats, again internationally, not just in Japan. So I'm pretty sure that is going to happen. So let's wait and see. So at the moment, I'm happy. I'm still very happy with my EM1X, my EM1 Mark III, and that they are doing the fine job for everything that I do. So that's all I can say. I got to see one angry comment here. So you see. Funeral from them. I don't know about the eventual selling of Olympus partner. Nope. And Mark is correct. Yes, ITX. That's the telecom business. So that is still trading. That is still trading. So that's maybe a good sign for everybody who may be dissing the JIP partnership. So let's see that this set the photos that counts, but in truth, this blah blah blah. It said that the photo that counts. In truth, for me, is more photography. Yep. Well, yeah, of course, you know, and photography in general is an experience, is a hobby, is something that is an art form. I mean, to me, it's an art form. People still kind of argue about it, and but that's another topic. But yeah, you know, it's just photography in general, and you got to realize the importance of it, and how it transform how you see the world differently. I think that's more to the point. Let's see. Morning, Terry. Good morning, Terry. Thank you for joining me back again. I think this is the general consensus since a couple of days ago, and I see similar comments actually left on my Facebook, not Facebook, on my YouTube, talking about this. And oh, I feel kind of bad now, because if I ever want to travel again, if I want a lightweight system, portable, a capable system, and it seems to be run out of choice. I mean, it sounds like the Olympus is already dead. That's how they presume it. But regardless, I'm just reading up the comments, and then it's kind of like the same thing. And this is actually what Olympus' message has always been about: portabilities and you know, how much you can save in terms of weight and size. So you can actually go out and travel, and this is a market on its own. And don't forget, you know, you can look at it in the general terms. This is a market. This is a traveler's market, travel photography, and also travel journalists, in the documentary photographers. They like a lightweight system that can take and to document the world. This has always been the case. I know that, you know, there are other systems out there, but in terms of you know, pound for pound, weight wise, you know, like, you can't really beat the Micro Four Third, and that's true. And in terms of what you can do better, I actually think Olympus is definitely way better in terms of photography in general. You know, like I mentioned, I do appreciate the color science. I think is really awesome. And let's see the other comments here. Hi there. Burana saying that surely Olympus will be all of you always, with you always. Yes, Star Wars here. The Force will be with you. Yes, let's see who can bring the balance of the Force to Olympus, and you know, let's fight off the evil. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's another interesting thing, you know. And I know there are speculations about and there is speculations about JIP is going to use the OMD or the Zuiko brand for, like, you know, other applications, such as like lenses for other cameras, mounts, or maybe even for partnership with other businesses, you know, just like Nokia and Panasonic. You know, you know, Nokia has Zeiss, I think, and Huawei has Leica lenses. You know, and that may be a new avenue. You know, you just really don't know. But it's an interesting thought about people who are coming up with different solutions, which is very interesting. I'm pretty sure they all think about it, and internally. Right, okay, that's pretty cool. I think that's the end of the comments here. With the EPL file, nobody cared about the camera, but when the people saw the picture sent them in Dropbox, they asked what camera, and some bought it. And I still take better pictures because I have the Zuiko 45 1.8. And yeah, it's actually very genuine comment that I also try to reflect on it, because it's the same thing when I take photos, and because usually people don't ask me what kind of camera gears I use, but when I do finish the job and send them the photos to my clients, and my clients always ask me, what camera was that? They always asked about the colors and the overall aesthetic of the photograph, and I said, yeah, I'll take it with my Olympus stuff. I said, oh, I didn't even know that there's a camera called Olympus. And yeah, anyway, that's something to think about. Right, okay, guys, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it for joining me this morning, and yeah, hopefully I give you some interesting insight into some latest figures. I'm just gonna show you once again, and not this one again, this one. So yeah, in Japan, Olympus remains the top 3 regardless what's happening, and I know this chart ends in May, and I will be interested to see the next chart, like from June onward, to see whether there's any changes. Hopefully not. But what I'm saying is, up until the 25th of May, the sales figures still reflect favorably compared to Olympus, that they remain in the top 3 in the Japanese market in terms of sales. In volume sales, they are actually second. They only got beaten by Sony by 0.2%. Yeah, I haven't given you some figures, isn't it? The annual volume sales, which means the total sales in Japan, across the board, like all the cameras being counted and things like that. The total market share in Japan, the Sony accounted for 39.2%, which is actually quite surprisingly high. Don't forget that I still believe Canon and Nikons are the bigger boys, but so they are not even in that categories. Olympus is actually second, coming in at 39%. So between Sony and Olympus, there is a 0.2% difference between the two, which is amazing, right? If you think about it, and not fanboy talking, I'm just talking about figures. And so like these two, Sony and Olympus, the difference is 0.2% in sales, across the board. And then you probably will ask, so what is Canon? And if you say Canon is not in that categories, well, Canon came in at 29%. So that is significantly lower compared to the 39%. So that is massively there's a massive gap there in between them. And then obviously Fuji and Panasonic and Nikon will be way down there. But you can see that it's so different in Japan, and in terms of the actual popularity of cameras and how they like to see the cameras or how they want to use the camera is very, very different to the West. But having said that, like I mentioned, that I've seen this chart so many years for a couple of years now, and on a regular basis, and it has always been fairly consistent about who's been more popular. There is some fluctuations between Sony and Canon because they are the bigger ones, and but Olympus is definitely always in the top 3, so which is actually very interesting. Panasonic did creep in every now and then between Fuji and Panasonic, but mostly Fuji in these days, and compared to whether you compare the two between Panasonic and Fuji. So there you go. This is the chart. This is the news, and I'm happy to share with you guys. Obviously, it doesn't reflect anything about Tuesday. It's just something that I would like to share with you guys about before you make any presumptions, any thing that you might be thinking that Olympus was doing really, really bad or horribly bad in the last few years. It's not the case generally. It's probably more local to certain regions, but obviously that has contributed to the overall market and overall performance of the company. But having said that, they are still very, very popular and very well respected internationally as a photographic company. And that's my take on it. And thank you very much for joining me. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and enjoy the sun while you can. I know tomorrow it may be raining. So today is still sunny and shiny. So it's going to be really, really hot. I can tell. I'm going to feeling heat. I'm having 2 fans blowing at me at the moment. So keeping myself cool. Anyway, so guys, thank you for joining me. And remember, you can join me once again next week, same time, 11 o'clock. And I will have another topic. If you want to learn some photography tips, and I also usually conduct something here. And between Monday to Friday, I talk about anything sometimes. If I have news like this, I'll talk about the news. If not, I'll talk about some philosophical stuff that if you guys are really want to get into the mindsets of a photographer or want to be a better photographer, regardless of brands and camera gears, you're very welcome to tune in and listen to me, because I have quite a wealth of experience in shooting and usually and also in terms of how to create better photographs. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you want to become better photographers, please tune in and join me. So that will be it. So thank you very much. And for joining me. Oh, Terry said that what is hot in the UK? Anything over 20 is hot. Well, I mean like 20 degrees Celsius. And yeah, that's my kind of hot. Thank you guys, and I will see you all. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you all Monday. Bye for now.